Chapter 9. Divine Faith. You know that the earth and everything growing on it, as well as all its functions, rain, snow, wind, were thought up by Him right from the very start. Our Creator, the Great Mind, created His great creation in an impulse of inspiration, and He created man in His own image as a culmination of His creation. But ever since the time of creation, it turned out that many beings have been plagued with doubt as to whether man, with a capital M, was really created by God as a creation unsurpassed in the universe. Is it really true what God said about man not being just like any other creature, but being equal with God? God Himself said, "My image and likeness He is. I have given him everything that is mine, and will furthermore give him for his own all that may be thought at a future time." Wow. God wanted to see His own creation, man, in the likeness of Himself. Now take a look at mankind today. Many people talk about God. They talk about the strength of their love for the Creator, but with that they are lying to themselves. For it is impossible to love someone without seeing, feeling, or understanding Him. Many will say, "I believe in God," but what exactly do they believe in? Do they believe in God's existence? But surely that indicates a very primitive level of consciousness. A man who says, "I believe God exists," is admitting, in effect, that he neither feels nor understands God, but simply believes in His existence. If by faith in God they mean that God is an almighty, kind, and loving parent, then what do they do for God apart from uttering words? They destroy His creations and isolate themselves behind the stone walls of monasteries from the world created by their Father. They spend their time thinking up and churning out all sort of treatises. And everywhere it's the same. The treatises say that God must be worshipped, but people worship they know not what. And now, Vladimir, just imagine how God feels when He looks down and sees all this corruption. You can picture it if you try. After all, God possesses all of man's feelings. Only with Him they are stronger, sharper, and purer. But even with the feelings we have today, our human and parental feelings, we can still picture how our parent, our Creator, must feel. Here He is looking down on His children, but all they can do is cry, "We love you. Only give us more of your goodness. We are your servants. We are powerless and ignorant. We're stupid. Help us, O Lord." Is it really possible for creations in God's likeness to conduct themselves in this way? What could be more painful for a parent than the helpless moaning of his children? This is how doubts about the perfection of God's creations arose among the elemental beings of the universe. But who could make such a fool of man this way? How? When? The only one who can make a fool of man is someone possessing equal power of thought. In other words, man himself. The priests were the ones who launched mankind down the path of degradation. They took it upon themselves to prove to God that they were capable of controlling all of mankind, on the premise that humanity's moanings and torments would force God to enter into dialogue with them. They counted on this because they know that God never talks with anyone, never interferes in human destiny, that all destinies are determined by the paths human beings themselves have chosen. But if mankind were to be brought to the brink of total destruction, God might enter into negotiations with those leaders, with those leading mankind to that brink, with those influencing people's minds, in order to head off an utter collapse. The premise was that God would do this for the sake of all of humanity. Millennia went by, but God did not enter into a dialogue with the priests and did not bring about any new miracles to bring people to their senses. First my father, and later I myself understood why. If he had done this, if God had interfered in human affairs, then he himself would have confirmed the speculations on the part of the elemental beings of the universe that man was an imperfect creation. But more importantly, his interference would have ultimately destroyed man's faith in himself. Man would have ultimately ceased discovering the divine elements within himself and relied solely on help from the outside. And so he waited and believed in his children, observing events and suffering, enduring the mockery and taking his name and the taking of his name in vain. He believed in his creation, man. It is his own faith that is truly the divine faith. I just want to say that again. He believed in his creation, man. It is his own faith that is truly the divine faith. The priests had hoped that the solution would come about just at the point when a global catastrophe was imminent. The priests had hoped that the solution would come about just at the point when a global catastrophe was imminent. They had hoped the scenario they had thought up would come to pass. Not one of them imagined that a single man, a young woman, in the space of a few short years, would thwart their plans and efforts they had been making over the course of millennia and turn mankind back to its pristine origins. But Anastasia did produce this most extraordinary turnabout. She demonstrated to the whole universe the power of God's creation. She demonstrated the divine wisdom. And quite possibly for the very first time, just imagine, Vladimir. I'm so confused. Oh, this is... Sorry, it's been a few days since I read. This is, Vladimir's... No. This is Anastasia's grandfather talking still. Just for... Anyway. Just imagine, Vladimir, the majesty and significance of that event. For the first time since the moment of the creation of the earth, our Father heard the talk of the perfection of his creation. The marvelous future visualized by Anastasia is already alive in space. It is being concretized moment by moment, by a whole lot of people who are beginning to understand their own essence and purpose of life. The marvelous future visualized by Anastasia is already alive in space and being concretized moment by a whole lot of people who are beginning to understand their own essence and purpose of life. Materialization will inevitably follow. But when will it follow? The priests, after all, are also capable of acting and interfering. But not the high priests. The challenge now is to abort the program created by the priests. My father spoke with one of them before his departure. The priests never meet amongst themselves. They are located in various parts of the globe, but can communicate at a distance by feeling each other's thoughts. My father was standing on a small hillock. The dawn's rays were already skimming the tops of the cedar trees, illuminating my father's face and his profile. I heard this dialogue take place silently in space. I am Moise, descendant of a dynasty that has been controlling the destinies of peoples for thousands of years. I am their descendant and forebear. I appeal to you, self-appointed high priest, but not on bended knee. Do not waste your efforts trying to counteract Anastasia. My granddaughter's aspirations do not correspond in any way, shape, or manner to the plans that we have thought up. This lack of correspondence is pleasing to me. It strikes a chord in my soul. I am Moise. I am a priest. We are equal in power. I shall shield my granddaughter with my own self. And the high priest's answer came. Yes, Moise, you and I are equal in power. And thus I realize that you are not asking me to stop the attacks. It is advice you are seeking from me. I am the one who is now thinking of how we can help her, how to put an end to this monstrosity of a system. We created a monster, and now it is stronger than us. You yourself, after all, participated in its creation. It has been devouring children and mangling people's bodies for millennia. Now it will take centuries of our efforts to stop it. But your granddaughter's thinking is more accelerated than ours. She can create millennia in the space of a single year. None of us at the moment is in a position either to help her or to harm her. The only thing I am certain of is that we should be creating our own lifestyle according to the image outlined by your granddaughter, and pour all our knowledge into our creations so that we ourselves become an example for people to follow. The priests did not use all that many words as they talked amongst themselves, but what they said made a great deal of sense. I do not think that everyone will understand the priests' dialogue. It is not clear to me, for instance, what kind of a beast they are talking about, the one that devours children. I am. And why, if they really want to help Anastasia, your father and the high priest still say that they are not in a position to offer help. It's all the speed of one's thinking, Vladimir. The speed of thinking? Why is that so important? What is the connection?